And now, from 12 Studios, this is News 12 Now.
Today is Thursday, April 4th. Welcome to News 12 Now. I'm Kylee Dedmon. New on News 12 Now, a threat was reportedly directed at Silo schools yesterday. After school was dismissed, a Silo resource officer got a tip that a student was threatening to harm another student and possibly the school. Superintendent Kate McDonald says the school resource officer, along with the Bryan County Sheriff's Office, worked together to investigate the report. The sheriff says the threat stemmed from an altercation between two students on Tuesday. The 15-year-old male suspect was then taken into custody by Juvenile Affairs. McDonald says she appreciates all the students and families who reached out to report the threat. While sentencing a January 6 rioter, a federal judge blasted the man for downplaying the U.S. Capitol attack. Taylor Giannatakis was sentenced to more than 7 years in prison on Wednesday. He has echoed Donald Trump's rhetoric about the insurrection, saying it was, quote, overblown. During sentencing, District Judge Royce Lamberth warned of a vicious cycle if we normalize the Capitol attack. Back in November, Giannatakis was convicted of 7 crimes, including assaulting a police officer and obstructing congressional proceedings. He has been in jail since then. Amid significant tensions between the two leaders, President Joe Biden is expected to speak with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today. This will be their first call since an Israeli airstrike killed 7 humanitarian workers 3 days ago. And as Rebecca Castor reports, Biden is ramping up his criticism of Israel's handling of the war with Gaza.
This is the beautiful, fragrant, aromatic rice that will be served today.
They were there to serve food to civilians on both sides. But earlier this week, 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers were killed in an Israeli airstrike. A tragedy drawing worldwide criticism and sharp accusations from the organization's founder.
And the airstrikes on our convoy, I don't think were an unfortunate mistake. It was really a direct attack on a clearly marked vehicles whose movements were known.
In a statement, President Biden said he was outraged and heartbroken by the tragedy. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu acknowledged his country's responsibility and said it would investigate. The incident will likely be high on the agenda when the two leaders speak on Thursday.
We want to see it wrapped up as soon as possible and see them put in place any measures to prevent this from happening again in the future.
Civilian deaths have been a major controversy during the war, with Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry putting the death toll at over 30,000. Yet the White House has yet to change its stance towards its ally.
We are still supporting Israel's ability to defend itself against a still viable threat. And that's going to continue.
Another point of contention between Biden and Netanyahu, Israel's plans to invade Rafah, a Hamas stronghold in the Gaza Strip, but also where more than 1 million Palestinians are sheltering. Talks are ongoing about how to evacuate civilians without it resulting in a humanitarian disaster. U.S. officials are also still negotiating with both sides on an immediate ceasefire and hostage deal. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
It was another chilly morning across Texoma with temperatures once again falling into the 30s and 40s. You can see that most of those lower 30s occurred in southern Oklahoma. So yeah, almost borderline frost territory there. But the good news is we are on our way to a warmer afternoon already. Lots of sunshine and temperatures should be climbing back into the mid-70s, even with a little bit of a northerly breeze lingering. So today is going to be another enjoyable day, and we still have several more of those nice days to go heading into the weekend. But we also do have several severe thunderstorm chances on the way. And also your eclipse forecast. Is it going to be a cloudy one? We'll definitely let you know coming up here in your full forecast. Until then, back to you, Kylie.
All right, thank you, Brian. Well, Biden administration officials are now fanning out across the country with a particular focus on swing states. The schedule just released from the White House shows a clear strategy to win over voters. Doug Luzader has more from Washington this morning on new polls and a new fundraising push from Republicans.
The Biden administration's travel budget is about to take a big hit here, but with the schedule that they're releasing now, the White House is making it clear that they are pulling out all of the stops. And President Biden approaches a White House podium to talk about lowering the cost of health care yesterday. But behind the scenes, some of his campaign's heavy lifting is being shared by administration officials, including Vice President Kamala Harris.
This election, we got everything on the line, and the voters in North Carolina know how to show up.
Yesterday, she called into a North Carolina radio show. Today, she will be there in person. It's part of an expansive White House effort to send officials around the country. Harris in North Carolina. Cabinet secretaries this week appear in Texas, Georgia, Nevada, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania, a list that includes what may be critical swing states. And First Lady Jill Biden is also doing her part for the campaign.
These polls, like the Wall Street Journal one, land in the White House, and he's losing in all the battleground states.
No, he's not losing in all the battleground
one.
states. He's coming up, and he's even or doing better.
But the poll she was asked about from the Wall Street Journal does in fact show that former President Donald Trump has an edge in 6 out of 7 swing states. And Trump this week hit both Michigan and Wisconsin. Republicans hope to build some fundraising momentum.
And when you've got polls like this coming out and you've got this repeated all through the media, this helps the RNC deliver its message and raise those funds.
Still, the GOP is already behind on fundraising, especially after the Biden campaign raised some $26 million with a single event last week. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with his Finnish counterpart to discuss security threats today. Blinken met with Foreign Minister Elina Valtonen in Brussels during a meeting of alliance ministers. They signed a pact to combat foreign state misinformation and noted the one-year anniversary of Finland joining the North Atlantic Treaty Organization alliance, also known as NATO.
The memorandum of understanding that we just signed is also important. It's an initiative that will allow our countries to work more closely together to combat one of the new challenges of our time, which is misinformation. Information that governments use to exploit divisions in our respective societies.
The MOU refers to new technologies, including artificial intelligence. AI makes it easier to mass produce disinformation, but it also provides tools to track disinformation more effectively.
NATO foreign ministers are meeting in Brussels to celebrate the 75th anniversary of their alliance. Well, turning to Taiwan, where residents are dealing with life after a 7.2 magnitude earthquake rocked the island. The earthquake, which was the strongest in 25 years, hit yesterday morning, centered on the largely rural and sparsely populated eastern county of Hualien. The death toll has stayed at 9, but the number of people injured is past 1,000. Today, outside one severely damaged 10-story building in downtown Hualien, dozens of residents queued to get inside to retrieve belongings, having to wear helmets and accompanied by government personnel. They were given a 10-minute window to collect valuables in huge garbage bags, though some opted to throw belongings outside windows into the street to save time. Well, you have 11 more days to file your taxes before the deadline hits. With tax filing season in full bloom, the IRS is out with the latest Dirty Dozen list of the most common tax scams. Phishing and smishing are at the very top. That's when scammers will email or text you trying to get sensitive information. On CBS Morning, CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger went over how to avoid scams, reminding viewers, among other things, the IRS will never threaten legal action, promise a refund, or send an email or text demanding immediate payment. She says scammers are preying on fear and greed.
Fear, we're freezing your account. Greed, you've got a tax refund. You get something like that, especially if it's time sensitive, then you just run the other way.
The IRS urges people to avoid clicking any links in an unsolicited email or text if they are uncertain. And speaking of numbers, here's a little basketball math for you. What happens when you add Caitlin Clark to the Final Four? Well, the answer is women's ticket prices are now averaging more than double the cost of the men's. Amy Kylee looks at the winning equation.
I think it's been a special year for women's basketball.
So special, women's Final Four tickets are now selling for more than double what the men's cost. Logitech, a company that analyzes such prices, says women's tickets have averaged more than $2,300 the past couple days. For the men's Final Four, that number is about $1,000. And Ticket IQ says the most expensive seat to see the women Friday runs more than $11,000.
The number one reason why women's college basketball has gotten so popular, it's Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark, University of Iowa.
She's Player of the Year after this ceremony yesterday.
Something I probably won't really wrap my head around until my career is all done.
And she holds the all-time scoring record for both men and women in the NCAA Division I.
Caitlin Clark is doing something that we have never seen before in the women's game, and she is shooting the ball from very far away.
Clark, facing off with LSU star Angel Reese, is bringing extra attention to the game. Ticket prices have been surging since Iowa beat Louisiana State Monday. Reese says she has her eye on the pros after declaring for the WNBA draft yesterday. Clark's got at least one more college game first. But someday.
If it's Steph versus Caitlin Clark, they might need to hold it in a football stadium.
I'm Kylee reporting.